What's up, guys? It's Kat here from Upscale Audio, and today I'm going to be talking about the Kuzma 4.9. You guys know that seeing our videos, maybe checking us out on social media and perusing our website, that we get to play with a lot of different gear. We test a lot of different combinations. So we like to do our videos based on some of the unique pieces in the industry that we find to be worth the money and that bang for buck. And the Kuzma 4.9 is definitely one of those tone arms. This piece is, I mean, it's $5,600. It sits around that price point. But if you're in that performance range and you're investing that much in vinyl, this tone arm is absolutely worth the consideration. So I like to kind of break down when I'm talking to my clients and talking to other people in the industry. I kind of like to break out the style tone arm builds in two different categories. I realize there's a lot kind of in between that, but it kind of helps people wrap their mind around what's actually going on. So in short, there's two categories of tone arms. We got your gimbal and we got your unipivots. Gimbal tone arms have fixed bearings, and they give you that side to side and up and down motion. And if done right, it's going to leave you very, very little chatter in the playback. There's going to be a lot of different parts involved. There's going to be a lot of different designs, but for the most part, gimbals have those mechanical housings to them and create a really stable tone arm. Unipivot tone arms came out after that, and the whole point of a unipivot tone arm was to reduce the amount of bearings, the amount of contact, and any other little moving mechanical parts about a turntable assembly. So you guys might be most familiar with VPI. They're very famous for having the unipivot tone arm. If you remember that spike that sticks up from the arm board, and then the tone arm itself is just balancing on that single spike. The reason why unipivot tone arms are so successful is because they don't have any contact. They have a free range of motion, which gives a lot of dynamic range and really helps bring out that top end air. So, but there's kind of pros and cons to everything. And I would say that maybe some of the cons when it comes to something like a unipivot style tone arm is stability. I mean, it's very touch sensitive, right? There's no housing to it. There's nothing binding that arm to the table itself. So it can be a little sensitive when you're queuing up a record. I've also experienced maybe in some really, really difficult rooms and you've got some weird frequencies and nodes going on. If, the spike in that cup grab that one frequency, you might have some mechanical feedback. And then of course, sometimes with the lighter arms, you have to figure out compliance and stability with different cartridges. So there's give and take to both gimbal and unipivot, and people are like, well, can you just have both? And Frank Kuzma's like, yes, you can. And that's kind of where the 4-point series comes into play. So the 4-point series from Kuzma was really introduced in kind of like the early 2000s. I want to say around like 2007, 2008. And the first one to come out was the 4.11 VTA. You guys might be familiar with that. It does come with that really big beefy VTA tower. And when longer arms were a trend, then they released the Kuzma 14-inch VTA tower. And so we've got the 11-inch, we've got the 14-inch, but a lot of turntables in the industry only accommodate the shorter arms, the shorter pivot to spindle. So the whole point of the 4-point series was to be able to, reduce the mass, give people more of an option, give them that performance, but not have to maybe spend $8,000, $9,000, $10,000. So that was the whole idea behind the 4.9 series. So in like 2018, that's when this style model came out, and actually that's when Frank Kuzma started designing the cups and the bearings out of ruby and sapphire. Ruby is an excellent component for analog. It's got great insulating properties. It's very stiff, it's very rigid, and it's corrosion resistant. So it makes for a great analog product and for long term, really. And so the whole idea of the 4-point, and again, remember when you were thinking of like maybe a VPI unipivot style tone arm, you think of the spike sticking up from the arm board. This is going to be like that, but the inverse of that. So the first 2 points that we'll be looking at is the spikes that actually come off of the tone arm itself. So these spikes are going to be sitting inside two cups that are actually attached to the second part of the arm. The cups actually themselves are two different cuts. So one of them is going to be sort of like a V-point cup, and the other one's going to be what he calls a groove cup or an A-line cup. And this allows those spikes to fit in those cups with zero play. So that's the beauty of this arm. The spikes are the inverse, it's coming out, and it's actually really, it's really stable on this Tonearm. It features a shelved horizontal bearing sleeve that rotates in a unipivot-like cup. The polished point permits lateral movement of the arm, and the arm doesn't tip because enclosed and attached to the bearing is actually a second point, which is a 90-degree to the first. That actually, and let me show this to you guys so you can see what I'm talking about. So those are the two inverted cups that the spikes off of the Tonearm will sit in, and then you actually have the second point that is a 90-degree to the first, that is going to be connected to the internal post, and that is actually the bearing and what gives you that stability for the unipivot motion, but kind of like a gimbal where it's going to be mechanically bound. There are two additional cups affixed to the sleeves that I was referring to, and they're attached to the horizontal sleeve, and you can actually see them underneath this arm. So the point of all of that is that you get this like free range of motion. You can feel it being like not fixed to anything, but at the same time, it's way more stable. So thus you are getting 4 points. You get 2 points for the vertical movement and 2 points for the horizontal movement. It's amazing that range of motion gives you a wide dynamic range, very, very, very low noise floor, very low friction, and I love that they ended up pairing crystal cables with this arm too, because actually, in general, I feel like the Kuzma arms can be, they can come off a slightly warmer, a little bit more sultry to some of the arms like maybe made of carbon fiber or titanium. So that crystal cabling gives it a little bit of a sheen and a little bit of a sparkle to the playback. It's machined perfectly, solid cut aluminum, and then you've got your tapered arm tube. And the cable itself is actually captive. So it is going to be a straight connection through the arm. They have this really cool arm collar that the arm will ship, you know, fixed as such, but you will actually loosen this collar and fix it to the arm board itself. So then you get that free range of motion, but the cables don't get in the way. They give you about 1 meter and some change to work with. So, you know, your phono stage can sit right below or maybe on the shelf lower than that. There's no VTA tower associated with this arm. You can always mess around with the VTA height off the shaft connected to the turntable. I personally don't use a VTA tower at home. Some of you guys like to get your hands on the VTA and you like to dial in some of those records, and I totally dig that. Maybe don't define your next purchase or your next analog journey off of VTA. Consider all the possibilities around it. You can order these Tonearms with XLR terminations. We usually stock it with RCAs because a lot of standard phono stages come with that. The effective mass of it is 13 grams, so it does accommodate a lot of different cartridges. And actually, the head shell on the 4-point series is removable. It doesn't come with a second head shell like the 11-inch arm, but it is removable, and you could swap different cartridges, say if you have a stereo mono, or if you just like, I don't know, 78, whatever you want to do, whatever that may be. It's flexible, and it allows for that, you know, that hobby and everything to thrive. And again, it's going to sit at a $500, $600 price point. You know, I know that can be hefty for some. I want you guys to, you know, call us up, talk to us about your analog journey, where you see yourself going with this. And perhaps we could get you a 4.9 to enhance your playback. So give us a call, subscribe, make sure you watch all of our videos, and yeah, thanks for watching.